Okay, here we are back in Illustrator. If you've been watching some of my other video tutorials, we talked about opening and saving files, and we also talked about how to change your document setup and export and all that good stuff. So now we're ready to actually get into Illustrator and start to draw, start to use it what it's actually meant to be used for. And so here I have an example of just a generic logo that could be for a food company, kind of a funny play on words. Obviously, it's a abstract icon of a barbecue. I want to send a shout out to a guy named Bob on Warrior Design Forums. He's basically a designer that that you can hire basically online to do your logos and brands and that type of thing. And I got this off of his website, so I didn't actually come up with the design concept, but I needed some time to quickly knock out one of these tutorials. So I went ahead and drew his design. It's not mine. I just want to be clear on saying that. And without further ado, this video tutorial is going to first talk to you about how you should set up a drawing that you're taking from concept into Illustrator to draw it into a professional graphic that can be mass produced. So what I'm going to do is show you the end result. I'm going to do a series of videos that are going to cover how to draw basic shapes, how to use the pen tool, how to put in your sketches in terms of dropping a sketch in and then using that as a reference, almost like a blueprint that'll help you sort of trace over that image or use it as a reference to get your drawing into an actual graphic. So you can see if I turn off this layer here and I turn on the layer below it, you'll see that it's an actual drawing. This would be my conceptual drawing that I did on Auto Sketch on my iPad. And I highly suggest getting Autodesk's sketchbook for your purposes in drawing too, because it's a great way to draw digitally. You can save the files, email them to yourself, get them opened up in a digital format, and you don't even have to deal with pencil and paper. So how do you place this in here? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to go to my document setup. And if you watch my video on editing artboards, I'm going to go to edit artboards, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit and create a second artboard that's the same size. And so I started my artboard, and I know this one is 8.5 by 11 in print size, so I can go up here to the top and set that width to 11 inches, and I can set the height to 8.5 inches. And while I'm in this editing mode, I'm going to use my space bar to kind of scoot that around there. Brings up the hand icon. It's really a useful shortcut. And then I'm going to drag that over just so they're not on top of one another. So I'm always going to have my reference file open here for you, and I'll be referring back to that. And then I'll also have the actual working file over these next set of tutorials. So when I'm done, I just hit the escape button on my keyboard. And what I'm going to do is show you how to drop in your tracing. So I'm going to create a new layer in my layers palette, and I have a video tutorial on how to work with layers in another video that's going to be coming up. And I'm just going to drag this to the top, and I'm going to name it Tracing 2. And then I'm going to drop it in on this artboard. So the way you want to drop in your tracing is you want to get it into a location on your computer. If you get it off your iPad and onto your computer, figure out what folder it's in and just drop it in. So File, Place, and you want to search for that tracing. And I just got to find what I did with the tracing. Yeah, I think I put it in my downloads. There it is. And voila, there you go. So there's my tracing. So I'm going to make it nice and big and get it in position over that artboard. And the first thing you should do is lock this down as a template so that you can't accidentally move it, especially if you're tracing on top of it. So to do that, you're going to double click the layer that it's on. And then you can change the color of all the wireframe sort of graphics within Illustrator if you want to, but I'm just going to leave it alone. And I'm just going to simply check template. The next thing you want to do is dim the image so that it doesn't overtake what you're drawing on top of it. Now, I drew this image pretty light to begin with, so what I'm going to do is I don't want to dim it any lower than 75%. But if you have heavy pencil strokes in your sketch and you didn't do a light sketch or something like that, you might want to dim it so you could still see it, but also so it doesn't overtake the graphics that you're making in Illustrator. So I'm going to save it to 75% and hit OK. And it's going to dim it down. Now, it did a couple things to that particular layer. It made it a template layer, and so the icon changes on the layer palette. And then it also locks it down, so you can't go in and actually do anything to that particular tracing. And you can see my icon has the circle with a slash through it, letting me know that it cannot be edited while it's in this mode. And so that's how you're going to place your images in for tracing. If you want to place in images, though, for an actual design, like you want to bring in a photograph, it's pretty easy. You just say File, Open. And then you're going to surf over to a photograph that you might want to put into a particular design. So I'm going to open up my graphics folder, grab an image. Let's say I want to bring in this image of a dog. And what it's going to do is open up the file separately. And in this separate file, what you want to do is just simply drag and drop it or copy paste it. So I'm going to select it with my select tool and Control C, Command C on the Mac, and then go over to your file and Command or Control V. Now it's telling me that this particular layer that I'm trying to paste it into is locked down. So that's no good. What I need to do is hit No on that and paste it into its own layer. So on the layer palette, I'm going to hit New Layer, and then I'll be able to paste it in because that layer is not locked. So now I have my image, I can adjust it and put it in position in an actual design. So that's how you can bring in a photograph versus a tracing in Illustrator. Pretty simple to do. Don't forget you want to lock down that tracing layer, dim the image down to a reasonable amount. So again, so it doesn't take over the rest of your design, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.